Hey guys, welcome to math class. During this portion of our day, we were going to be live, but not today. So I wanted to just record exactly what that was going to look like, but obviously on a YouTube video where y'all can watch on your own time. So welcome to math class. I wanted to share with you a little breakdown of what math will look like every day from here forward when it is live. So in math, the first thing we're going to do with the whole class is a warm-up. A warm-up is going to be a review on a skill that we have already worked on in either third grade or early in fourth grade. Since we are just on the second week of fourth grade, we are going to be working on foundational or basic TEKS or knowledge standards that we worked on in third grade. That will take about 5 minutes. After our warm-up, we're going to move on to our mini lesson, which will take about 15 minutes. A mini lesson will be what we are working on in the class together, just a lesson on all of that with Miss Callahan, kind of going over anchor charts and all of that good stuff and best practices. Next, we'll move on to guided practice. So we're going to take what we learned in this mini lesson and apply it in our work during our guided practice. That will take about 10 minutes. After this chunk, which will take 30 minutes in total because 5 plus 15 plus 10 equals 30, we then will move on to either meeting as a small group in guided math for 15 minutes, and you'll need to look at your schedule to see what time you will meet with me and your group. Or you will move on to independent practice, which will take about 15 minutes. So I will show you where you may find your guided math schedule. And your guided math schedule will either be on the agenda on Wednesday, of course, because we are not meeting Monday or Tuesday, correct? So it will either be on the agenda or linked below in the assignment, okay? So you need to look at that and see what time you meet with me. And I actually have a written little schedule down here for myself so that I can see what time and who is in each group. So I've got my own little ways of remembering who's where at what time as well, just like you do. Okay, so the independent practice will also be found on this page that you'll have for your math assignment for the given day. So let's go into following the schedule in this video and let's complete our warm-up. So here's our warm-up. And in our warm-up, we're going to do 2 questions per day on a TEK, like I said, or knowledge standard that we have already taught or mastered or just need a little refresher on. So this is a third grade knowledge skill. And this question is asking us to put the number shown in expanded form into standard form. The second question we're going to work on is doing the same thing, but instead of expanded form, we're going to work with expanded notation and then putting it into standard form. So I'm going to scroll back up to the first one, and I am going to read it aloud, and then we are going to work on it together. So it says the expanded form of a number is shown. 90,000 plus 200 plus 40 plus 1. What is the standard form of this number? So the first thing that we want to do is look for the number that has the greatest value. And it looks like 90,000 is the greatest. So let's count how many digits are in that number 90,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the next thing we're going to do is think about place value. And we know that when we count numbers, we start from the right and move to the left. So if it has 5 digits in its core of the whole number, we're going to start in the ones place and count the ones place. And don't forget, I know you just watched that vocabulary on decimal. We need to start to the left of the decimal to be working with whole numbers. Okay, so we have 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it looks like we're going to be moving up to the 10,000s when we plug in this number on our whiteboard. So what I'm going to do is angle down and place this whiteboard down so that you can see what I'm working on. And I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger. Okay, so here we are. And like I said, we have 5 place values, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is make a line like this. And this is where I'm going to label my place value, okay? And I'm going to draw 4 lines to make 5 boxes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's see. Here's 1 box. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the reason we need 5 is because our largest value digit has 5 place values, right? So if we start over here, we have our, and we always want to start from right to left. And I'm sorry, it's upside down and backwards for me, so I'm just trying to gauge how to instruct this. So here we are on our right side, right? And we're going to start with our ones. We know that that is our ones place, and I'm going to put an O for ones. The next place value is a T for tens. Next is an H for hundreds. And then I always put TH for thousands so that I know that it is thousands, not tens, okay? So I have ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and then I have 10,000. So I put TTH, so I know that it is 10,000s place. Now, since I'm looking back at that number, I am going to think about the value of the 9. So I'm looking here at this number, 90,000. So the 9 is in the 10,000s place. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that 9 down in this 10,000s place. Now I'm going to look for a value that has that is in the thousands. Okay, so I'm going to look for a number that has 3 zeros because I know 1,000 has 3 zeros. So let's look back. And it doesn't look like I have anything worth any thousands, so I'm going to go down and plug a 0 into my thousands place. Next, I'm going to look for my hundreds, and my hundreds is, there is a 200 in there, so I'm going to put the 2 in the hundreds place. And remember, only 1 digit per place value, friends. All right, now I'm looking for tens, and tens have 1 0, so I'm going to look, and it looks like I have a 40, which means I should put a 4 in the tens place, like I just did, and a 1 in the ones place, a lonely 1. So now that I have this number written out, I'm going to count from the right, 1, 1, 2, 3 lines, and I'm going to put my comma. And then I am going to look at my options, and it looks like 90,241 is option H. So I know that H is the correct answer choice. Okay, good job, guys. Now we are going to move on to number 2. Number 2 says the expanded notation of a number is shown. 9 times 10,000 plus 4 times 100 plus 1 times 10. Okay, so like I said, with the expanded form, what we are going to do with the expanded notation is look for the value that is greatest and count how many digits are in that place value, or in that number. How many place value digits are in the number. Okay, so it looks like, and usually you will always see, well, not always, but usually you will see from left to right, they will write the largest number to the least number when you are looking at expanded form or expanded notation. If it's not in that order, you should definitely put it in that order before getting started, just so your brain knows how everything is functioning. So I'm looking and I see 10,000, and that is the greatest value. It looks like there's a 9 in the 10,000. Okay, and in expanded notation, it means that 9 times 10,000 is the value of that place value. So it's 90,000. And since 10,000 has more more zeros than 100 or 10, I know it is the greatest value. So I'm going to count how many digits are in 10,000 to decide how many place value areas I need to write on my whiteboard. So 10,000 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 digits. Cool. We don't even have to do anything different from what we have down here. So now when I look at this, it says 9 times 10,000. I'm not going to put 90,000 in the 10,000s place. I'm just going to put a 9. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now I'm going to look in my thousands place. I don't see anything times 1,000, so that means I should put a 0 in the thousands place. Next, I'm going to look at the hundreds, and it looks like there is a 4 times 100, so I know one digit per place value, I'm going to put a 4. The next thing is 1 times 10. There is a tens place, and it looks like there is a 1 that should be plugged in there. And then finally, don't forget to look for your ones. If you see no ones, definitely put a 0. And then let's count 1, 2, 3, comma, because every third place value we put a comma. So our number is 90,410. Now I'm going to look up at my answer choices. And it looks like at answer choice, D is the correct answer. Okay, good job, guys. This was our warm-up. I know it took a little bit longer than we thought, but that's just because it's our first time. And now I'm going to give it a check because we are done. Next, we are going to move on to our mini lesson, which this week we are going to be working with place value. So I am going to make myself a little bit bigger so that you're able to see this place value chart. And here it is. I made this yesterday for us. And in this place value chart, you'll notice there are a lot more place values than we have ever seen in 3rd grade or 2nd grade or 1st, right? So something you also may notice is this little spot that says and then there's a little dot or period. We're going to call that, well, we're not going to call it. It's called a decimal. And when we see the decimal, we will say and, not 384. It's actually 384. And if there were something in that place value, 9/10. Okay? I know this sounds crazy, but to the left of the decimal, we have been always working with whole numbers. To the right of the decimal, we are going to start working in 4th grade with fractions of numbers, okay? So, if we look at this number, 27,384, and we don't need to say and because there's nothing that follows it, right? We can see that there's a 4 in the ones place. So if we were to look at some base 10 value blocks, or some base 10 blocks, we would pull out 4 little mini cubes. Here is the 4, right? And then when we look at the tens, there's 8 longs, right? So we would grab 8 of these guys. When we look at the hundreds, there are 3, so we are going to grab 3 flats, which are these guys, right? And then in the thousands, we have 7, and we would need 7 of these ginormous cubes. In the 10,000s, we would grab 20 of these ginormous cubes. Okay? So let's talk really quick about what these numbers, if you noticed, these got bigger and greater as we moved forward, right? And I'm sure that since first grade when you've been exposed to or first saw base 10 value blocks that you started to notice a pattern. And the pattern is that when you move to each place value, the number becomes 10 times greater as you move from the right to the left. So down here I have this little line that is in green, and it moves from the right to the left to show you that when we start in the ones place, the tens place is 10 times greater than 1. And when I say that, that means that if we were to look at 1 and there's one mini cube, the tens place, or the long, is 10 times greater than one of these, right? Because 1 times 10 equals 10, which is a long. Then, when we look at the tens place and the hundreds place, we know that 100, one of these, is 10 times greater than one of these, right? A long. So in 100, there are 10 longs. So 100 is 10 times greater than one long, right? Same thing goes for the thousands place. So 1,000 is 10 times greater than 100. So when we look at 100, there are 10 hundreds flats in one of these crazy cubes, these huge, ginormous cubes. So today what I really wanted to go over was the fact that as we move from right to left, the values become 10 times greater. And I'm going to kind of just bring it a little bit closer so that you're able to see that. Okay, so 10 is 10 times greater than 1. 100 is 10 times greater than 10, and so on and so forth. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, we will be going to the millions. We are very brave. I believe we will be actually going to the 100 millions at one point, which is insane, right? Okay, so with that being said, when we move right to the left, the value becomes 10 times greater. If we look at the contrary or the opposite, right? When we move from left to right, that number becomes 10 times less. So the opposite, oh no, my anchor chart got a little wet. I think one of the dogs was sniffing or licking the anchor chart and made it leave. Sorry I got distracted. But what we are going to be talking about now is how the value decreases by 10 times as we move from left to right. So I put, obviously, we all know from third grade that the opposite of multiplication is division, right? So I'm looking down here, and it looks like when we move from 10 to 1, 10 long is 10 times less than 1, right? And then when we move from 1,000 to 100, 1,000 is 10 times less than 100. So 1,000 divided by 10 equals 100. 100 divided by 10 equals 10. 10 divided by 10 equals 1. We know that any number divided by its number, that same number, is always 1. So we are going to think now about decomposing the numbers. We were composing the numbers as we were moving up. Now we're going down in value, and we're going to decompose. So 1 is 10 times less than this guy, right? So we're going to think about how these longs have 10 little mini cubes. And if we had 10 divided by 10, because as we move from left to right, we have to divide by 10. So 10, which is this, divided by 10, which we always divide by, equals 1, right? Same thing goes for 100. 100 divided by 10 equals 10 equals 10, right? So there are 10 longs in this, and when we divide it by 10, right, we get 10. So 100 divided by 10 equals 10. Oops. And then same thing goes for this ginormous cube. 1,000 divided by 10 equals 100. Sorry. So once again, 1,000 divided by 10 equals 100. There are 100 of these, or there are 10 of these and one of these, right? Okay, so what you're going to do next is you are going to work independently on this activity, okay? And this is our concept exploration. It's going to be in a Google form for you. So what you're going to do is number 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to skip 4. And then I'm going to do, actually I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so what I'm going to want you to do through this is tell me, using the base 10 blocks, and don't forget, you can go find your virtual manipulatives if you need to. I showed you how to do that, and it's linked in your math assignment. I will need y'all to go in here and tell me, blank small cubes can be used to build a long. So here's the small cube, which is our ones. How many of these can build a long, which are one of these? So 1 times how many equals 10, okay? Number 2 says blank longs can be used to build a flat. So 10 times how many of them equals 100. The third one is blank flats can be used to build a large cube. How many flats are in one large cube? Okay. Then tell me number 4, describe a pattern you observe with the base 10 blocks. Well, we've been talking about it for such a long time now. Here we are. Number 5 says a digit in the hundreds place has blank the value of the same digit in the tens place. A digit in the hundreds place for number 6 has the same value, has blank the same value of the same digit in the thousands place, and so on. So typically I would be guiding you through this, but since we're just working independently today, we are now done with the mini lesson. I kind of guided you through what you need to be doing for your independent practice. And since we will not have math groups today, ignore this chunk and get your vocabulary done if you haven't already. And then complete your independent practice. All right, y'all. I will catch y'all at 2:45.